is better than the negative that could come from it, or potentially will
Have you
come
ever heard
from
of
it
the
over time.
prostate? Like, men can have a prostate orgasm. Like,
So,
by that standard, then maybe the butt did evolve for sexual
or
needs.
people could get a little more intelligent and just stimulate the perineum. That way, they don't have to actually do any kind of insertion.
I can tell you've looked into this a lot. All right,
A lot. Yep.
props to you for that. But
Hey, buddy, how you doing today?
doing good. What's up? Why do you want to talk about gay morality?
Uh, just want to talk a little bit and see, kind of get your perspective on what I think about it, and um, I hope this doesn't turn into an argument. I just want to talk. Um,
I mean, if you think being
um,
gay is immoral, then it will probably turn into an argument. But we can
okay.
talk anyway.
No, that sounds awesome. Um, so I don't think being gay is immoral. The only thing that I ever have seen wrong with it is just having butt sex, and that goes for heterosexual couples too. And um, I guess we can go from there. That's the thing I think is wrong with it.
I'm assuming your reasoning for this is because of the higher risk of HIV.
Well, that and a recent study shows that syphilis is coming back in the gay community.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the problem with this is that this just has nothing to do with actually being gay. It's not intrinsic to gay people. Just like what you just said, straight people engaging in anal sex also raise their risk. Second of all, this argument doesn't really make sense if we're talking about a gay married couple.
Right. Well, it's not just HIV and STDs either. It's anal fissures, anal ruptures,
Well, that's for them
anal
to
traumas.
figure out. Okay.
Right. But
But if
if
we're
we're
gonna
talking about like reducing net harm, that to
I
me
would
would
say
be
the
the thing
net
that we would look
harm
at.
of anal lesions or whatever is probably less than the net harm that would be enacted on society to outlaw being gay based on that. I think that if you were to say, hey, you can't have anal sex because you might get a cut in your butt, I don't think that's good enough. I think that you would be doing more harm by trying to restrict people's sexual behavior behind closed doors.
I mean, but wouldn't that be an opinion though, not necessarily an objective truth?
I don't really know what you mean by objective truth.
So, I mean, like, we know for a fact that diseases and stuff can not only kill you, but can alter your way of life in a absolutely negative way. But whenever you have a thought, you kind of have like your thoughts are abstract.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's kind of like how I argue against abortion. Like you're considering the life of somebody over the opinion of someone.
So it sounds like your argument is more about anal sex, not actually anything to do with gay people.
Well, absolutely. I mean, even if you take what the Bible says, the Bible never says it's wrong to be gay. It only says it's wrong to like basically engage with butt sex with a man. That's really it. I mean, if you want to
So
take the
you're wrong with
morality that
you're against heterosexual couples engaging in anal sex as well.
absolutely.
Okay. So you're arguing about the morality, more or less, of engaging in certain sexual behaviors, not the morality of gay people.
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, if this has nothing to do with gay people, then it doesn't really determine whether or not being gay is moral.
No, but it does stem from like the idea. Like you can have
Not all gay people
certain
have anal sex. So are you okay,
no,
for example, with a gay couple who only ever they get married, okay, they've already been confirmed STD free, they get married and all they do is have oral. They do oral sex. Are you okay with that?
sure. Absolutely. If they stay within their marriage and they only do oral, sure. But the problem is they don't.
What do you mean they don't?
Statistically, I mean, statistically, why do you think that they have the highest STD rate of any
Well, there are various
minority?
different reasons, but for you to suggest that gay people just don't stay together in a marriage is blatantly false. And if you want to really make that comparison, look at how many straight marriages end in divorce.
Well, that's true, but
Second of all,
a
I'll
big
explain the higher STD rate.
yeah,
There's various different reasons, okay? One of the reasons is that there is sometimes more promiscuity amongst like gay communities.
Mhm.
I'm not going to deny that. But again, that's not intrinsic to being gay. If you look at the highest rates of promiscuity across the world, then it's actually straight men who obviously engage in the most promiscuous behavior. Second of all, with the higher rates of HIV, there's a lot of barriers still as far as seeking treatment. And there's a
Right.
lot of different ways which shows how gay people, due to either previous stigma or current stigma, are less likely to seek treatment or preventative measures um, because of the stigma associated with HIV and just being gay.
Uh, I'm sorry, man. That's kind of a tough sell, especially when we have such an accepting society in America. If we can't even get it down in America, how in the world are we going to get it down in the rest of the world? I mean, we've got PrEP, we've got condoms, and every time I talk to them, either
But
they
PrEP,
feel like they
doesn't
don't
it
need it,
reduce it
or
significantly?
oh, absolutely it does. But the problem is people aren't using it. It's just like condoms. Condoms could prevent a lot of problems. But even straight couples, if you talk to straight couples, it's like, well, uh, it feels better without it. And I guess the reason I'm talking about like sexual morality as a whole is because it piggybacked off of segregation, and then which is a good thing. We got segregation done away with. And then the homosexuals were like, okay, well we can get in there, and it's like, okay, well now they're in there, now they're a protected group, and then it was like, well now the transgenders can get in, and now they're a protected group, and now you have pedophiles and zoophiles trying to piggyback
You
in,
don't have
and it seems like,
pedophiles. This is a fucking slippery slope and a lie. So,
uh,
societal risk factors. Society also plays a role in the risk of HIV among men who have sex with men, particularly those who are black or Latino. Poverty, racism, high rates of unemployment, lack of government support, and poor access to healthcare all contribute to the high rates of HIV in people of color. Add that to the risk factors impacting men who have sex with men in general, and it becomes clear why this group is disproportionately affected. According to 2019 data, 76% of people living with HIV in the United States have a household income of less than $20,000 per year. Of these, 39% have no job, while 18% are homeless. People of color account for the lion's share of these numbers. So,
mhm,
poverty, racism, high rates of employment, or I think unemployment, and unequal access to healthcare are amplifying the risk of HIV as well.
right. So
So there's
wouldn't it
obviously
wouldn't it
some behavioral reasons. Like obviously I would argue against engaging in promiscuous sexual behavior. That and again, but this has nothing to do with being gay, right? So like straight people, I'd say, hey, you shouldn't engage in a lot of promiscuous sexual behavior because you
right,
also have a high risk of getting an STD. But that doesn't
right,
mean that straight sex is intrinsically bad.
right. But that again, it's the same argument I would use against incest as well. Like you don't even see the effects of incest until like 3 or 4 generations down the line. And if, I mean, I think that people engage in a lot of immoral sexual acts, but the fact of the matter is that, if you allow one thing, you eventually are going to have to allow the other.
No,
Otherwise,
that's
it's going to
not
piss
true.
somebody off.
No, this is not true. And this is hingent upon a slippery slope fallacy that because this one thing happened, this means something else, which is far, I guess, in your mind, worse, is going to follow. That's not true. Not at
You
all.
don't,
You
you
already
don't
tried
think,
to, well, no, you already kind of lied about it and tried to imply that now pedophiles are trying to get in on the gay rights movement. I don't know
I
what
didn't
you're
lie
talking
about it.
about.
You can watch YouTube videos about people trying to get in. I
I
mean,
don't need to
it's not
watch YouTube videos. There's always going to be one or two like dumb fucks on the internet that are like, "Hey, I'm a pedophile. I should be part of the LGBT." Blah blah blah. The point is that they are not accepted by the LGBT community, and this has already been something that was attempted in the 1970s, where
well,
pedophiles tried to join the gay rights movement, and they were fucking kicked to the curb immediately,
okay. Why do they not accept them into their community?
because their sexual desires harm people, particularly
Okay.
children.
So, okay, let me get this straight. So, because their sexual desires, so you don't think that two men engaging in butt sex is potentially harming each other?
It could be harmful, but it is not necessarily harmful. There are many ways to prevent getting HIV from anal sex, and there are many kinds of medications you can take which cut down on the risk. Whereas having sex with a child, the child cannot consent. It is intrinsically wrong.
Right.
The possibility of harm uh, arising from anal sex does not follow that anal sex in its entirety is intrinsically morally wrong. This is like saying, so do you think that we shouldn't drive cars because now there's an increased risk of getting in car accidents?
Right. Now, but there are things that you can do to prevent a car accident, and we do take those measures.
And there are things you
But
can do to
with that,
prevent HIV, and those measures can be taken as well.
they can be, but people don't always. So,
Well,
but
people also don't always take preventative measures when it comes to driving their car either. This is why car accidents still happen.
right. So, when it comes to pedophiles, do you believe that they can be rehabilitated?
I think that most people who are pedophiles are most likely born that way or have like a actual sexual
Okay.
orientation directed towards children. But
I
with the
agree with you.
recognition of that, then I think that, yeah, what they should be doing is seeking treatment immediately. They should probably not be around children. And there's also kinds of medications that they can take which reduce their likelihood of offending. For pedophiles, what they need is oftentimes a strong social support net where they can talk about these, uncomfortable and harmful desires in a way that is not going to treat them like they're subhuman pieces of shit, but rather recognizing that, hey, this is wrong. You cannot engage in this kind of behavior. Let's talk about how we can deal with the fact that you have these attractions in your life.
Right. Well, I just think that they're kind of the same thing. Like if you can't change a pedophile's way of thinking and you can't change a homosexual's way of thinking, but one gets stigmatized and the other doesn't, I don't know.
You
And
don't
both
see a
can
difference
potentially
between
cause
two
harm.
consenting adults having sex and somebody raping a child. You don't see a difference between those things?
I see a difference, but both cause harm.
No, we already went over this. One causes an intrinsic harm, the other has external harms that can be reduced.
It, just because you can reduce harms, it would be better to just not engage in the activity at all and
No,
stop all harm.
no, this is literal bullshit. Every activity we engage in, more or less, has some potential harm risk.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about like feeling good for 30 seconds and potentially living your
No,
life
I'm
with
talking
some
about
physical problem.
homosexuals uh, being married and engaging in sex with their partner, which strengthens the bond between them and makes their overall relationship better. I'm not just talking about
Uh,
30 seconds of good. I don't know how long you last, pal, but 30 seconds, that's a little short. But I mean,
uh,
again, we're talking about external harms versus intrinsic harms. And like I already said, my goal is to overall reduce harm in the broader society. And the harm that would arise from trying to legislate people's sexual activities would be significantly greater than the harm related to gay people living their lives freely while also encouraging more acceptance of gay people and better protective measures. You know, they already had laws against anal sex in the US, right?
I mean, yeah, but the problem
And it was
is
struck
that
down for being unconstitutional.
when it was struck down, more people started having anal, and then we have an explosion of disease in the U.S. Absolutely.
No,
Look at what's
HIV rates
happening
are
in
overall
Africa.
going down, first of all.
Okay.
All right, let me make sure I'm correct on this one. New HIV infections declined 8% in 2015.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. It is when we're talking about large percentages of disease. HIV infections have declined by 73% nationwide since peaking in the mid 1980s. So, yeah, HIV is absolutely declining. And so I do not know how you're able to compare this to being a pedophile.
Because both, like I said, both do both have the potential for harm. I
So
mean,
is driving
well, I
a
mean,
car.
what?
Hold on, no. Stop. Is driving a car comparable to pedophilia? Because they both have the potential for harm.
No,
Okay.
it's not the
So your
same.
argument makes no sense. You should stop making this comparison.
Well, no, because if people stop driving, that would be an absolutely net harm on society. People have to drive, get to work for society to even exist, but you don't have to engage in butt sex for society to exist.
Well, not everything we do needs to revolve around society existing. There's a lot more to living lives than just making sure society exists.
Right, and I think that there's a lot more to life than engaging in whatever kind of sexual crap you want to engage in.
Okay, well, you can have that thought all you want. The problem is that there's no way to actually effectively legislate it.
Re-stigmatize anal sex.
Okay. Let's see. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down sodomy laws as unconstitutional in 2003. In 2003, the U.S. Supreme Court declared sodomy laws unconstitutional. Historically, many states criminalize sodomy, acts of anal or oral sex, even when those acts were performed in private between two consenting adults. So it's against the Constitution to try and legislate somebody's sexual behavior amongst consenting adults. So if you want to talk about just stigmatize anal sex, we've already seen that happen. And the stigmatization of anal sex is what led to an increase in HIV rates. Something I think that's really important for you to understand is that humans act in ways that are predictable. Okay? This is the equivalent to me of people saying, oh, well, if you don't want to have unplanned pregnancies, just don't have sex, lol. People are going to have sex. People are going to have anal sex. People are going to do oral sex as well. This is something that is going to happen regardless of whether we like it or not. So the best thing you can do is try to reduce any kind of potential harm that could come from that thing.
Right. And people are illogical and make stupid decisions. And I'm kind of a bad American, so I don't always agree with the Constitution because I think that it's there's some things that we could do different with it.
Well, if
But
you are wanting to get rid of the Constitution because you want to criminalize sodomy, then I really don't know what to tell you. Like, that's fucking delusional.
no, I kind of want to get rid of the Constitution because not the Constitution, maybe reform the Bill of Rights, maybe take out the cruel and unusual punishment thing. I think that that's why our prison systems are the way they are. But as far as the gay sex thing goes, I'm sorry, dude, you're not gonna change my mind. If it causes any harm, it's best just to avoid it. It's kind of like drugs. It's the same thing as being promiscuous altogether. Like you just
No,
need to avoid
your
it
your argument
better.
is literally comparable to me saying, "Hey, if it has the potential to cause harm, you should just avoid it all the way. So don't ever take any kind of pharmaceutical medication for your depression because there could be a negative side effect that occurs." That's what you're
But
saying.
is that negative side effect worth the positive? That's
And
what you
is
have
the
to look.
negative side effect of potentially getting HIV, which by the way would not be possible if you were both confirmed to have no STDs and then got married and were in a monogamous relationship, is
Is
that
there more? Is there more to
compared to what? Like you wanting to legislate anal sex essentially.
yeah, is there more to a gay relationship than just sex?
Of course.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Is there more to a straight relationship than just sex?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to just be about sex, but sex is also an important part of the relationship.
I would agree with you.
Okay. So I don't know why you're
So,
agreeing when this literally defeats what you just said.
because people need to just use their hands and mouths if they're going to be in homosexual relationships.
Okay. Well, I guess that you can just try to legislate that, even though it goes against the Constitution. Or your other, what was your other idea? Oh, right. Stigmatize it more heavily, even though that is partially what contributed to the skyrocketing AIDS crisis back in the 1980s and onward.
I mean, I would argue that probably atheism added to it because people were like, oh, well, there's no actual authority that we have to point to for any kind of morality, so we can
No, it's
basically
usually
just
that
do whatever the
ultimate
hell we want.
authority that like people like you try to appeal to is stupid and doesn't actually have any ultimate authority whatsoever.
I mean,
Because
if
I
you
can,
want to talk,
well,
I've
I
been
what
taking notes on your
I
videos.
know that what you're talking about right now, what you're really getting at is that you are a Christian and you think that being gay is a sin. I already know that.
No,
So
no,
you
I'm
trying to
getting at
argue the
like
potential of there being external harm is not good enough. You also realize that people can get AIDS from just being straight, and you can get AIDS still by just having heterosexual sex, right?
absolutely outside of your marriage, one person with another.
So why are
Absolutely.
you so are you against people who are homosexual getting married, being in a monogamous relationship, and also having sex?
Because it can cause like anal tears and anal fissures. Yeah, it
There
also
can
increases
call
the
wait,
chance of
hold
anal
on.
cancer.
Having sex with a woman can result in the vaginal wall getting torn. This is like a common
That's a
thing that
hard
happen.
sell.
No,
That's
this
a
is
hard sell.
okay. This is a common thing that happens is that women are very sensitive with sex because they're very sensitive in their vagina and their vaginal wall can tear. There are all kinds of issues that can arise there.
Yeah, if you're not being gentle, it's probably because you're being a jerk.
Are you trolling right now?
No.
It's just you're sounding incredibly dumb right now, and I feel as though you're just here to kind of troll.
No, I'm not here to troll.
Okay,
I
well,
really don't understand. Like, we can have a difference in morality. If you've noticed, I haven't once called you dumb.
that's fine. You can call me
I don't
dumb
really
if you
understand.
want, but I
No,
don't
I'm not
think that
going to
I'm the
call you
one.
dumb. I don't believe in it. I think that insults show a certain amount of uh, stupidity, but
Okay, that's
I don't
fine.
think that you're dumb.
I'm
I'm just
totally
saying
I
that
like
you're
insults,
arguing from a
okay?
different point.
I love insults. And when
I'm
I'm
sorry,
talking to
buddy. You're
people
not
that are
getting off on
being
me today.
dumb, then I'm okay calling people dumb. That's just how it
No,
works.
no.
Also,
It's
my
just
arguments
I'm not
aren't dumb
afraid.
whereas yours were. So
Uh,
there's a whole like plethora there of why I'm
that's
calling you
subjective,
dumb.
though. I mean, uh,
No,
the
it is
reason
not
I think that
subjective. It is a literal fact that the vaginal wall can also rip and cause great injuries. And you said,
but
"Well,
it
that's a
does.
hard sell." That's something that
That's a hard.
happens all the time.
Right, but the difference is that the vagina evolved to be able to take a dick, whereas the asshole was never meant for that.
How do you know this?
Well, let's
The
see. The
mouth was
way,
evolved to eat food, so you shouldn't put your penis in your wife's mouth.
well, that's something a little different. It's kind of like hands. Like hands don't have a direct use, just like your mouth doesn't have a direct use. But like your piss hole or your asshole has a direct use for eliminating waste from the body.
Wait, your mouth has a direct use of putting food and nutrients
No,
into
it
your
doesn't.
body to keep you alive.
Yeah, I mean, we also design things around our mouths like instruments and
So why could the same thing not be said for an asshole?
because it doesn't self-lubricate and it causes much more harm,
What does
impaction,
self-lubrication have to do with this? You're saying
because it's
because
not
the
meant for
No,
sex.
no, no. Okay. At its very basic default, the mouth was made or evolved to intake food and water for the sake of keeping your body alive. And you said, yeah, but we can do other things with our mouths too, like play instruments. So why is this not applicable to the butt?
I mean, it's not applicable because it's not like you cannot use it for that purpose and get anything good out of it. All you're gonna
That's
do is hurt
literally
yourself.
not true. It's used for that purpose all the time. Straight dudes like to fuck their wives in the ass, and
Okay.
people do get
Well, then
pleasure
they
out
need to
of it.
stop. No, well, just because people get pleasure out of it doesn't necessarily mean that that pleasure that they're getting out of it is better than the negative that could come from it or potentially will
Have you
come
ever heard of
from
the
it over time.
prostate? Like men can have a prostate orgasm. Like by
So,
that so by that standard, then maybe the butt did evolve for sexual
or
needs.
people could get a little more intelligent and just stimulate the perineum. That way they don't have to actually do any kind of insertion.
I can tell you've looked into this a lot, all right?
A lot. Yep.
Props to you for that, but this is absolutely a just brain dead argument, okay? And I'm not calling you brain dead, but the argument you're making is brain dead 100%. Like if we're going to talk about this thing was evolved for this reason, the fact that men have a prostate is actually stronger evidence that the ass evolved for sexual needs as well.
That doesn't make any sense because, like, the
You're
fact
right,
that
it
you gotta
doesn't,
spit
but
on it or
it's
something.
no, it makes sense in regards to the type of argument that you already made,
Which was,
which was, well, the mouth evolved for this thing, but we do other things with it also.
well, I mean, it's kind of like saying the hands. Like, what did the hands evolve for? For grasping different things, not specific things. Just like the mouth didn't evolve for certain kinds of foods or specific foods, it evolved for all, like a plethora of foods. Whereas the
But you also
asshole
said it's okay to
evolved.
put your dick into your wife's mouth.
I mean, you're talking about something that,
That's not
I mean,
food.
that's not gonna cause, well, no, not yet. It's not gonna calm or cause the harm that you can cause in the asshole. Plus the inner lining of the anus is much thinner
I know.
than anything else that, I
I know
mean,
that.
and even I've read articles where the anal sex is the single riskiest sexual act that you can do with another human being
It
because
probably
of,
is. That's why if you're going to get married, I think that you should be obviously in a monogamous relationship and you should probably get tested for STDs beforehand.
yeah, I agree with
But
that,
your
but
problem comes
like I said,
after that's been confirmed to be fine. So if they get the results back that say, hey, you have no STDs, and then they're in a monogamous relationship, there is no increased risk of AIDS at that point.
No, but there are people that go to the hospital all the time with anal injuries, whereas they
There are
wouldn't have those if
people
they
that go to
just
the
wouldn't do it.
hospital all the time with penis injuries, okay? I heard a story
You
once
can
about
break
a
it,
dude
yeah.
whose dick literally cracked while he was having sex with his wife. This argument does not make any sense, dude.
No, but I mean, common sense goes a long way. Like, obviously, there are certain sexual acts you probably shouldn't do to reduce the amount of risk of injury.
The fact that you're appealing to common sense is not looking great for you, dude, because you're now indicating how far common sense gets you.
I mean, it might get you not a broken dick, which might be nice.
Well, you can also spread STDs via oral sex.
Um, I mean, yeah, if you already have something, but I mean, we're talking about people. Okay, we're flip-flopping. Are we going with monogamy or are we going with um non non-monogamous relationships?
I'm not going with either. I agree. I think that engaging in promiscuous sexual behavior has risks whether you're gay or straight.
Okay. Okay, I agree with that. Listen, my biggest point is that there are tenfold more problems that can come from having anal sex than vaginal. It didn't evolve for that. There's
You
no
have no
evidence
evidence
to
that it.
suggest
No, you have.
there's no
The
evidence that it
fact that you
didn't.
can have an orgasm with your prostate is literally an argument against the claim you just made.
But literally, the whole point of the prostate is to like cause the orgasm in the penis. It's not when you have an
Says who?
orgasm, it's like that's
You're
what
just
happens when you
appealing
have an
to
orgasm.
evolution, and if you want to do that, then there's plenty of animals that engage in anal sex and
Well,
homosexual behavior.
absolutely, but the reason animals. Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. I've actually been taking a lot of notes on your videos. One of the things that I've researched about animal sex is that whenever they engage in like anal sex as animals, it's kind of like any port will do in a storm. Like they gotta have some kind of hole, and if that's the one that they choose, then there it is.
No, I don't
Like
believe so.
dolphins generally can't actually engage in anal sex, I don't think, considering they have a cloaca and they engage in like blowhole sex, which is kind of funny, but it's mostly just because they're horny. And like chimps, yeah,
No,
chimps
have
have
you heard of
sex.
male lions? Male
Yeah, I
lions
have.
mating with other males is not altogether uncommon occurrence. This behavior is often seen as a way of asserting dominance over another male
Yeah,
or a
right.
way of reinforcing their social bonds. This isn't just fucking whatever. This specifically has something to do with a male lion having sex with another male.
I mean, it sounds like they're just kind of horny and they want to get off on something because nowhere in the
You know
animal
what?
kingdom
Good
will
point.
you
I'm sure
see.
you know more than all of these evolutionary biologists.
Well, no, at no point in the animal kingdom will you ever see any animal or any group of animal that are specifically homosexual.
You don't need to.
They're they'll screw anything.
You don't
That's the
need to
point.
find any animal that's specifically homosexual for the fact that it exists in nature to indicate that there is some kind of an evolutionary phenomena behind it.
You do if it's something that they don't really care about what's natural because like nature's already screwed up. Like people that appeal to nature, it's not really nature. It's all nature's already screwed up. Nature has problems, and just because they do it
Obviously.
doesn't necessarily mean they should. It's kind of like chimps flinging their
Wait,
crap
of
around.
course,
Like
but that wasn't the original argument you made. You said that it didn't make sense from an evolutionary standpoint, and I am directly disproving what you said, both via the existence of the prostate and two, that in other animal species, aka evolution, we see them engaging in the same kind of behavior.
the existence of the prostate doesn't disprove what I said. Like I said, the prostate has another use other than being stimulated by a penis.
So does the mouth, so do hands.
Well, mouths don't get stimulated by the penis.
Oh, well, the mouth can stimulate the penis.
Oh, absolutely. Just like the hands can stimulate the penis, the butt cheeks can stimulate the penis, the tits can stimulate. I mean, you can put your dick on a vibrating vacuum cleaner and
So
it'll
you can actually
stimulate it.
make
It
that
doesn't
argument
mean
too. Don't women have breasts primarily to like breastfeed their children? So is it wrong
sure.
to use it in sexual ways?
Well, no, because it doesn't result in a net harm.
Well, there's no net harm that results from anal sex either.
There really is. And
There's the
I've
increased
already
risk
done the
of
research.
HIV, which can exist from sodomy in general. But if we're talking about somebody being in a monogamous
Okay, that sounds
relationship,
bad
as
to
gay
me.
people often are, then there really is no increased risk there. There's really only an increased risk if you're engaging in promiscuous behavior and having sex with a lot of different people and engaging in anal sex. That probably is risky. I wouldn't recommend it. But again, that has nothing to do with gay people.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we'll just agree to disagree on that. But there was one more thing I want to talk to you about because I was curious. Um, you keep making the claim that God hardened Pharaoh's heart and that it was evil for him to kill the children, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You do remember that the Egyptians killed countless Hebrew babies before that had happened. And out of all the plagues of Egypt, this was the one plague that God gave them an out, and they still didn't take it, even though they had seen nine
Well,
other
yeah, because
plagues.
God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Um, I can harden someone's heart indirectly, like just by being
Well,
myself.
God can directly harden someone's heart. So your
Based
argument
on
makes
what?
your argument
Because
literally makes no sense.
he
Second of
doesn't, he
all,
doesn't.
wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does it somehow make it okay that God killed the firstborn sons because the Egyptians killed firstborn sons?
I mean, it's eye for an eye. Does that not make sense to you?
Doesn't the Bible directly condemn an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth?
No, as a matter of fact, it specifically says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
A man who injures a countryman, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So I guess I'm confused as to how this is okay when an
Okay,
all-powerful, all-knowing being basically enacts revenge on somebody. Now, if God had killed the killer, that's more of an eye for an eye. Killing
okay.
the children or killing their child because they killed their children doesn't make sense.
We have to remember that the firstborn aren't always children either. The firstborn were a lot of adults
That's
at that
even
time
worse
too.
because then those people would have been sent to hell.
Possibly, yeah. But I mean, you're talking about adults that were like, you know what? I don't need to put the lamb's blood over my doorpost because even though this old guy comes along and every time he comes along and says God's going to do something, it ends up happening.
So
I'm
why
just going to
didn't
let
they
it go
get
this time.
punished?
What do you mean? Why didn't they get
Why not
punished?
punish the people who refuse to put the blood on their door, not kill their kids?
You don't think that's a punishment?
I think it's a punishment, but you're punishing the wrong person.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you're talking about people that, I mean, okay, so evolution and, or not evolutionists, atheists do this weird thing with death where death is like this absolute horrible thing,
Mm-hmm.
which, I don't necessarily think it is, even from a, evolutionary standpoint. If death is literally like the stopping of all negative experiences in your life, I don't think death is necessarily a bad thing. And if there is something else on the other side, I sure don't think that
Well, yeah,
it's
if
necessarily
you
a bad thing.
assume that there's some kind of heaven or whatever, that's just great. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, everybody who is alive would most likely, I'm not going to say everybody, but most everybody who is alive would prefer to be alive over not being alive.
Um,
And we don't think it's
before,
horrible either. We just think that you just cease to exist, which, by the way, is way better than being sent to a hell because you stole a cookie and that broke the Ten Commandments, according to God.
I mean, I think that
Do you
you
see how
realize that
quickly
there's
this
some
is
nuance
devolving for
there.
you, bro? You've literally gone from, well, they did the bad thing first, so somehow that makes it okay for God to do it.
Well,
Or,
no, it's
well,
just you
death
have an
isn't
opinion.
actually that bad, right? Lol, so it's okay when God does it. You're justifying God's abhorrent, immoral behavior.
When you're talking, I mean, you yourself, you are bringing the claim that God is an all-powerful, omnipotent being. So if you believe that God is an all-powerful, omnipotent being, he
That's
knows
what
the hearts of
Christianity
everybody he kills.
believes.
Okay, that's fine. If you believe that he is an all-powerful, omnipotent being, then would it not go as to stand to reason that, oh, okay, well, he can decide, well, this person later on in life is going to do something that's against me. They're not going to follow me, so if I kill them now, they won't have to,
That's
they won't
bad. You shouldn't be
commit that
killing
sin.
people for not following you. That's
Um,
immoral.
right, but if he
I thought
gives
that
us
God
moral
wanted
laws
people
for
to
harm
love him and
reduction,
come to him.
of course he does, but if people don't want to love him, like, what's he supposed to do? He made us for the whole point of like worshiping him, and if we're
Right.
not
So if we
fulfilling
don't
our
worship
purpose, what's
God,
the
then he
point?
should just nuke us all. That's what you're saying.
I mean, we're kind of his playthings. It doesn't matter whether you think it's moral or
You
not.
have a
You're
really, really sad perception of this earth. I'm very sad for you, my friend, that you would be willing to worship this imaginary friend that in your mind you believe that we are nothing but his playthings. That's pretty
right.
depressing. But
I
I
mean,
don't, I
it
don't know
really
what
doesn't.
happened. Like, did God fuck you in the ass? Is that why you're so against this?
No.
All right. Thank you very much for the conversation. Goodbye. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.